I'm reading the history of the 30 Years' War in Europe, which is essentially Germanic expansionism from 1602 to about 1630, 1632. And it sets the pace for the entire, this is a political night. This book that I'm reading sets the pace. Understand that America is the earliest colony in a Massachusetts, 1606. So people are so pissed off in Europe. Religious people are pissed off in Europe. So bad they're going to get on a ship. But they don't, the majority of them have no clue the world isn't fucking round. I mean, just 100 years before that adventurer, Christopher Columbus, went and screwed over all those Indians in the Bahamas or wherever it was. So he did prove that you can at least survive an ocean drive. But the real deal is that was 1492, so almost 1500. We're talking right now, America is colonized by white people on, the eastern seaboard, 1606. Now what's happening in Europe that causes those Americans to want to leave? What's happening is that the monarchs still exist, and the monarchs are all essentially sisters marrying cousins, marrying aunts, marrying uncles, in the fourth division of 75, cousins that are twice removed from reality. And as the land gets more and more condensed, the power struggle between the manor lords becomes more and more intense. And as that power struggle between the manor lords becomes more and more intense, they squeeze the ones that are able to pay taxes. In that era, there aren't really mercantile, it's not a commercial era. The serfs have nothing that can be taxed. Only the owners of the serfs have something that can be taxed. And generally that which they use to pay their taxes with are serfs. And so essentially, in the 1600s, the early 1600s, there are wars being fought between relatives about who's going to control which nation and which territory. And they're using the individual citizens that live and were born on those territories as the means and vehicle by which they will fight their war. And that frustrates the individual people that are subject to being conscripted against their will. And they try to revolt, and they use religion as the means by which they're going to do this. Now in 1602 to 1620 in Europe, of course you have the Catholic Royal Empire, whatever it's called. Holy Roman Empire, thank you very much. I believe it to be whatever year it was that Luther nails his 90 demands on the door of the Catholic Church and starts Protestantism. Now you have the battle between Protestants and Catholics. And the problem is that neither really support the idea of monarchy. And the monarchy is all about hereditary progeniture, which oldest son is going to inherit the whole thing. So you have this conflict between rich families and religion. And caught in the middle is the serf, the average person, who doesn't really believe in a religion. Who would? It's a fucking dumb idea. My God. I mean, seriously, comes to earth and saves everybody because he's so magnanimous. I mean, Daniel did not die in the lion's den because God put his finger on the lion's head and prevented it. Let's get things straight. God is a powerful being. The average human being, even in 1620, heard this shit coming from the pulpit and said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Bullshit. And therefore, Luther found fertile ground. Protestantism started. We have Calvinists. This is fascinating to me. I actually read shit. I understand shit. Calvinists believe that the average human being has no say in whether or not he's going to end up in the promised land of heaven. Calvinists believe God decided all of that before anybody was born. And so you're living your life with no opportunity to either redeem yourself or advance yourself. In any way, your life is a meaningless, conscripted thing. You're going to hell. because you weren't indoctrinated by God before the universe began. Needless to say, some of the serfs disagreed with that lesson. They were being thrown down their throats while they sat there in these big fucking cathedrals that were built by the rich people in order to indoctrinate the poor, in order to maintain their own power. Now bring all this up to 1606, America. What's happening in America? Well, we got the first colonies of individual people coming to, Massachusetts Bay and whatnot in 1606, and I've been there, I've seen it, I've seen the rock, I've stood on it. What did they leave? They left England. England was the monarchy that was above it all because it was an island. On the mainland, you had the duchies and the fiefdoms of the children of kings from the 11th and 12th century, now vying for who's actually the oldest progenitor, who is the firstborn male heir of this line. You had all this kind of crap. And so in Europe, there's all these wars being fought, but England was above it all because they didn't have any of that. They were an island. And so all of the European nations were able to solicit England through bribes and money. Will you send us your men? Will you send us your money? And we'll promise you X in return. We'll give you all this power. So England saw itself as the arbiter of power within the European continent. England properly saw itself, after having beaten the Spanish Armada in the late 1500s, in the early 1600s, Europe properly saw itself as the arbiter of power, where the Germanic states, who had never succumbed to the Holy Roman Empire, and yet they were a sophisticated culture. You had the Spanish, who had all this silver coming now from their holdings in South America and Central America. Silver was far more powerful than gold, and Spain had the greatest avenue of silver flowing into itself. And Spain was the richest country on the continent. But Spain was solidly Catholic and backed the Italians. And the Italians at the time had no nation. They had no country. All they had was the remnants of the Holy Roman Empire, backed by the power of Spain. France, being a small minor power at the time, decided that it was in the way of the Netherlands and Denmark, who were this enormous trading power. The Netherlands became this enormous shipbuilding empire. The Netherlands went New York, founded by this little tiny country called the Netherlands. Exactly. The Netherlands and Denmark were the bulwark against German expansion, which is Protestant expansion, against Catholic control. Catholic control is all about the monarchy, and the monarchy is all about the silver dollar. And the monarchy controls religion in order to manifest its own corrupt control on its treasury. And the Americans that are leaving Europe recognize all this shit and say, fuck this, and we're going to head off and set something new up. And this new thing is going to be about merit and the mind. And it's going to be about all these ideals that we hold dear. And all of it is now dumping itself down your toilet. Let's talk culture. Let's talk artists and what artists do for a living and how they change society. Let's talk about what matters right now. Does religion matter? What is actually affecting your life? I hate it like I fucking hate warts on a beautiful fucking face. When I see crowds screaming, oh my God, so-and-so's been elected, my life is going to suddenly change. Bullshit. Nobody's fucking life changes because of an election. At least not right away. Maybe down the road somebody's life changes. What is all this yelling? What is all this? Oh, hell yeah, Trump's in. What is this? It's culture. It's a war. destruction of others' lives. They want to say, some people in this country want to say, you can go so far in that direction and after that you're uppity. Well, I'm here to tell you the entire history of humanity is an effort for the average man and woman to take for themselves their own space, the freedom to be responsible for themselves. Democracy is an experiment in individuals exercising individual responsibility. That's what democracy is. It's an experiment. It's one way that individuals get the chance to make decisions for themselves and those that they love. Democracy is an experiment, and it's only, I can't do the math that quick, less than 300 years old. And there are failures within democracy. Democracy was built on slavery. Let's say it out loud. You would not have the ability for the white man that came here with nothing to build unless he exploited and built on the backs of others. And the white man that came here and did that did not mind. Found religious justification for his experiment in subjugation. Let's call it out. Well, a couple hundred years later, of course, after Jim Crow, after the Civil Rights era, after all kinds of things, the politics of now are real, and we have dog whistles being uttered by our president, our unelected president. We have dog whistles that alleged racists and white supremacists and other assholes use as justification for expanding their grip on destroying the possibility that each of us has individual responsibility and autonomy. The goals of democracy are being threatened by the ideas that some hold, indicating that some are more capable of government than others based on bullshit genetics. The voice must be raised, the words must be made clear and manifest and without reserve. The ripples in the pond of Thoreau in his little area matter and mine matter now, and I'm raising my voice loud and clear in defense of freedom, in defense of the reason that in 1606 those European peon serfs jumped on board a dragon ready to make them puke, suffer for 3 months until they got someplace they didn't go. That effort is what America is about. Inside, as you might, you'll be grabbed and exposed. This country is far too large, far too diverse, far too strong to allow a sinister dragon to hide shores of Europe and became Americans. I fucking wish I'd set up the goddamn Facebook thing and I forgot. I better keep going. Tonight we're coming to you live from the ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, downtown Atlanta. We are experiencing an enormous outpouring of support for the homeless of Atlanta. We are at a charity ball. If you happen to notice a woman wearing a pink dress, she is part of the foundation that is funding this charity ball. Please plant a kiss on her cheek. And tell her from me, Dale Johnson, how grateful I am that she was able to host this event. The homeless of Atlanta are grateful, and all of the efforts of philanthropy everywhere means everything to those that receive it. And so, since of course government can't do everything, nor should it, let's be clear here. Since government can't do everything, we citizens have to step in to fill the gap. And it's important to acknowledge the contributions made by those at the top of society. Yes! Donald Trump donated $1 million or something to hurricane relief. This is powerful and important things. He's motivating others. His billions aside. Hey everyone, what I want to do with my money is to help people. I'm going to give $1 million to hurricane relief. I am Donald Trump. Now I'm going to throw some rolls of paper towels into the crowd that is knee-deep in water. Let them soak that up was a better line than Marie Antoinette ever thought of. Yeah, baby, I've got this thing under control. Yeah, baby, America's delivering like nobody's ever done before. We're taking care of Puerto Rico. We're taking care of Houston. We're taking care of the Gulf Coast. My team is the shit. Person. You're probably a person of color. You didn't do your job now, did you? Fired. But America will make Puerto Rico great again, no matter the cost to our budget, because we care about the lives that we've saved. Let's make that very clear. We care about the lives that we've saved. We can't count the survivors, but we can sure as hell count the dead. And the dead would have been much more had we not intervened, because we are the superior team. Let's be clear. America made itself great again when they elected Donald Trump. That's all it took. After that, it's just icing on the cake. Happy birthday, America. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, President Kennedy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, President Kennedy. May the Vietnam War be a manifest of your dreams. Happy birthday, President Kennedy. Well, everybody, it's come down to this. What we have right now is a situation in which the world faces imminent demise. If we don't do something wise, if we don't act properly, there's a good chance that the entire world will go down in flames, and our administration will go down with it, and we'll look like fools in the eyes of those that live behind. So what we need to do is we need to make good decisions right now, gentlemen. I think what we need is a proper distraction. I think we need to move into a little country called Vietnam. The communists are threatening things all over the place. I think what we need to do is a little distraction, ladies and gentlemen. We need to move into a little country called Vietnam. Everything will work out just right after that. You'll see that we'll establish national hegemony over the world. We'll be the most powerful country that the world has ever known, and we'll be able to exert American influence throughout the hemispheres wherein democracy is under threat. So we will save the world for democracy by taking on this little country called Vietnam over there in the southeast of Asia. Right here, the tape was interrupted, and we're not clear of how the proceedings really established themselves. But at some point, it did become a known fact that America invaded the country of Vietnam shortly after these recordings were made. And the consequences of that invasion are still playing themselves out in the global theater called, the world. And just so everyone knows and understands, reality hits, like a slap in the face sometimes. And you gotta take a breath and step back. And once in a while, reality, taps you on the shoulder and says, "There's this dude over there, not Vietnam, but Korea. He's blowing up nuclear bombs in the ocean and shit." Now, reality says to you, what we don't want is somebody to poke him in the eye and say, "Motherfucker, drop your nuclear bomb on this big toe." Right? We don't need that. So, this little ripple for that. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Gerard and I would like to express ourselves and let you know that we'll be performing next week on the poop deck of the HMS Majesty outside the boundaries of Ceylon, underneath a full moonlit night, together with a lot of really actively intelligent people. And we hope that y'all can join us there for that cruise. If you can't, tune in please to our podcast, which is www.bullshit.com. And we'll be happy to share our experiences in the Indian Ocean with you at that time. Until then, please enjoy yourselves, drive safe, and tip the porter on your way out, please.